Good afternoon, morning, depending on where you are. It's such an odd time of the day. You never know what to say at the beginning of the conversation because it's such an odd time of the day that some people are still morning, some people are afternoon at this point in time. So
Friday.
welcome in. Welcome in. We'll give it just like 30 seconds or so for people to get loaded in here. I see a bunch of people coming in, popping in right now. So yeah. Yeah, but I do see that back to our conversation pre recording. There is some distinct similarities. We'll chat about that at
Yeah,
another time.
love to
It's so refreshing for me because he really is one of my best friends. So it's kind of fun.
I love hearing that too, the adulting of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I think we will go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining the latest in mortgage today. We're really super lucky today. We have someone who I feel is like really dynamic in the industry, just as a person, maybe I should say, not even in the industry, who is Jeremy Davis, who is the president of Mortgage at Southern Bank Corp. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you again.
Yeah.
It's been a good
And
while.
and I'm going to give you some kudos here. It was just announced that you were a 2025 Housing Wire Vanguard Award recipient. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. How about that? That is a crazy, humbling honor, especially if you check out the list of people on the list this year. I'm like, I don't, it's one of those, which one of these does not belong songs in my head. Because I was just like, are you kidding me? But yeah, I'm very honored to share this year, especially with folks like Rob Crane, and Greg Sure. It's just really, it's humbling. So, but super exciting. I shared a post on LinkedIn yesterday that was like my initial reaction. It was just my little niece just giggling the whole time because it's kind of how I felt when I heard the news.
Wondered if that was somebody that you knew that was giggling. I did watch that. I did watch that. So yeah.
Our
So,
godly child.
oh, that's so sweet. Well, this is the latest in Mortgage Today. This is only the third week that we've done the show on Fridays. So really appreciate everyone's interest and everybody joining in. How this is going to work going forward is in each episode, a TMC lender member joins us to help unpack what's new in mortgage, what's working, what's maybe shifting, and what it means to all of us. It's a place to listen, exchange ideas, and move forward together for sure. And we want a place to build a place where people can chat. So Bernard is already in the chat. I love it when Bernard is in the chat. People join Bernard in the chat, please, and send us questions or your opinions as we move through the conversation. It's on our event calendar. Bring along your whole entire team if you want to join us. So hop in there or get other people within your friend group to join us on Fridays. So yeah. I admitted to Jeremy before we got on the call today that I am a creeper of his LinkedIn because it's such a weird thing to say, but it's like totally true. I don't always comment on the posts that you make, but I'm always interested in reading them and just getting a little bit different viewpoint on things. So here's some of the things, guys, that I've seen lately. People don't want to pitch, they want to be seen. Love that idea. We'll talk about that in a minute. Trust is built in everyday places, barbershops, the corner store, the pulpit. So out there, you'll have to go back and find all of his posts, but there's a 5-part series on faith, fades, and foundations, which I believe is what the graphic that you have up in your background right now.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So share a little bit about that and kind of like that 5-part series that you did, because we're going to talk today a little bit about, or a lot about affordable lending and initiatives surrounding that. So share a little bit about what that was for you.
Absolutely. And thank you for your LinkedIn stalking. Faith, you've known me a while, so you know how I love a soapbox. And I will step up on my soapbox pretty much as often as anyone will open even a crack in a door to let me do it. And LinkedIn to me sometimes feels like it's a perpetual soapbox for me. So I get to put all of these thoughts and passions that I have for our industry and in particular the mission work that we do here at Southern. And that series in particular, the 5-part series, Faith, Fades, and Foundations, I just felt like I was seeing a lot of media hype around how terrible it is to try to buy a house right now and how impossible young people feel and how is basically I was seeing a lot of media coverage that is the American dream dead or is the dream of homeownership dead? And that series was really my response to all of that because while all of that is true, and I know we're going to talk about some of those key issues on the chat today, um, while all of that is true, my team is still having great success in markets where it is difficult, but we're making it work. And I just wanted to do a series that was really more about, well, maybe a little challenge to our industry, but also a consumer focused like hope and planning session for how to become a homeowner. Because yeah, affordability is not great, right? Interest rates are making it impossible. That's what we hear all the time. But on the other side of that fence, like down payment assistance is more available now than ever before. And a lot of that is because of the work that specific institutions, it's because of the work that our industry is doing on their own, not necessarily that our government is doing. It's what we're doing. Flexible loan program availability for first-time homebuyer. We're seeing so much space in loan programs now. Expansion of non-QM, which is helping. And I think just a general shift in our industry where loan officers really understand the difficulties in a different way than they have before. So there's a whole lot less judging and a whole lot more supporting and education coming from our industry. I think it's really hopeful to see. I know there's still all of those problems, and sometimes the window to fit into that homeownership window is so super tight. But the resources and the people in our industry that really do care and that are cheering on consumers that need education and assistance and the various ways that that assistance can come, I think it's flourishing right now. It's really hopeful for me to see that.
That is like so good to hear. And I feel like, a lot of, if you think about it, I think about this all the time, especially like Sunday morning, I sit and that's my time to sit, have coffee, and I watch a couple of news shows on Sunday mornings. I do it very, very consistently. And, but what you hear out there is what the people in the world are hearing. And sometimes it just feels like it's a little bit off base from what we hear, because we hear it from a lot of lender members. And it just makes me wonder what people really know about the things that they know are only going to be the things that touch them and that they hear. And so is it those Sunday morning shows? And that's the only thing that they hear. And that's what's discouraging. I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Is that there's just so much, and it sounds derogatory to say this, but the media hype, right? And I don't necessarily mean it derogatory. The media is not wrong that all of these challenges exist, but we can't just simply focus only on those challenges. I mean, just think about if all a Gen Zer or a millennial here is how hard it is, how impossible it is, where is the counterbalance to that, right? I mean, our media is constantly being accused of this both sidism, right? They try to give various vantage point, but on this particular issue, I don't know that I see a whole lot of both sidisms. Like, there's educational resources. There are companies out there like mine, shameless plug, that all that we do is try to expand home ownership access for people, and especially people in those low to moderate income communities that need the most resource, right? The most vulnerable communities are the communities that need the most resource. But I see it everywhere. It's not, I love a shameless plug, but the truth is that, I share this passion with so many incredible people in our industry and so many organizations like the Mortgage Collaborative and others that are doing a lot of the work of educating the industry so that our industry can go out and educate the public. And I talk a lot about, people are trying to talk about how the people no longer want to be homeowners. books or they've given up on the idea. And I really don't think that's true. I think the dream of ownership is alive and well. I think what's really at stake or waning right now is the general belief that people can be, that they can find a way to do it. So it really is our industry, right? To teach people.
Jeremy, for some reason, we're losing your sound a little bit. You're wavering in and out. So
Maybe we just stand still for a minute.
there you go. We're good now.
I'll try to stand still.
Thanks. Well, I feel like one of the things that has begun to change, and you just touched on it a little bit, and continues probably to need to change. Obviously, the vanilla loan transactions have gone away for literally almost everybody. Part of that is just because the people that are left to finance homes probably fit in a different bucket than what traditionally, I mean, we don't have a lot of refinancing going on, those types of things. So part of it is that. But part of it, I feel like, is also for everything in the mortgage industry. Sometimes people are looking for like a really quick fix. And so I'm going to gain this business by having this product in my suite of products. And then it's all going to, fix the world. That's really not the world that we live in. I mean, you're going to get some transactions that way, but this really isn't as much about the product as it is about assisting the people, which goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's like people want to be seen. They just don't want you talking. They don't want the pitch. So share with me a little bit about like what you found that's worked within your team and like kind of what your general setup is or how you feel like the best way to capture some of that business is.
Sure. So I coach my team a lot about the best way to build trust, the best way to educate the communities that we're serving is we really have to be present both in real life, IRL. Look, I'm getting so hip, y'all. In real life and online, right? We have to find a way to be present in both places. And I teach people to start in true community institutions of trust. And you see my background. It's like I talk all the time about barbershops.
There we go. Lean
Yeah.
forward just a little bit. Thank
I
you.
talk all the time about barbershops and pulpits and corner stores, those true community institutions of trust where they carry the credibility. And if we partner with them in the right ways, we can borrow that credibility and really, really make a bigger difference in the way we're heard in our communities. But then we have to be smart about it too. So I talk a lot with my team about making sure that the work you do in real life, the work you're doing in these communities, you have to find a clever way to capture those messages and then find a way to communicate them to the browser, if you will. So you've got to make sure that if you do a home ownership seminar in a church and you answer a lot of questions, video that experience or do some type of outline of what those questions were and turn it into a LinkedIn series. I love a LinkedIn series, as you know. Turn it into a LinkedIn series because more than likely, if you're getting those questions in the community when you're there in person, there are a lot more people online from all of those similar communities that probably have all the same questions. So use that to connect the dots between real life presence and your own presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, we were talking before we hopped on here. You have people that speak many different languages, which has to be like a sense of relief for a borrower who maybe they speak English, but maybe English isn't their first language. Maybe English is their second language. So your team structure I would assume that that's something that the culture of that and everything that is something that you've went out and sought as part of your team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the bottom line is like people don't really trust financial institutions, right? They don't really trust large institutions in general. People trust people. And the highest degree of trust amongst people are people that come from similar backgrounds, of course, that speak the same language. So in building up a team to do the mission work that we do, we really have to be intentful for making sure that we bring in people to this team that know the business, of course, they're good at what they do, but also that care for the communities that we serve and come from those communities. You say, amen.
It
We're gonna get real close in
does
person.
make it a little bit better. Yeah.
Um, uh, but we want to make sure that we hire people from the communities that we're trying to serve. And make it clear that we're not making a seat at the table for these communities. They already earned the seat at the table. We're just making sure we can talk the same language. So we do put a very intentful effort to making sure that there's not a language barrier to the communities that we're serving. But I have to say, I've been a little bit surprised, pleasantly surprised by the amount of diversity. I mean, English and Spanish and Romanian and Arabic. I mean, there's a wide range of languages on this team, and I'm super proud to watch them serve their particular communities with the passion that they serve. But I do think it's something that in general our industry is starting to move more and more in that general direction, because as we know, I think the Urban Institute has predicted that in the next 5 years, something like 70% of new home buyers are going to come from diverse communities. So wow, if that's not something that we need to get on top of right now, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that kind of moves us into the next thing that I wanted to talk with you about. So FHFA came out with their affordable housing goals forecast that happened in the last couple of weeks, as well as Harvard they do a state of the nation housing report every year. So the Joint Center for Housing Studies came out with two different things. And when I read one and then I read the other one or parts of the other one, it's like the focus for FHFA is low income home purchase, very low income home purchase, and low income refinance loans. And they predicted that the forecast provided targets that there would be a continual federal push towards expanding access to underserved borrowers. Then I moved on to the Harvard one, and
Right.
and it was completely different.
Yeah.
And the one of the things in there that was stated is federal housing support is declining, raising concerns about the sustainability of assistance programs. So,
Right.
like, is there a middle ground there, or which one of those do you think are they both true?
I actually think they are both true. I think there's not just a middle ground. I think almost all of it, all the real action happens somewhere in the middle of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like it's disappointing to see any time that we see the government pulling back on support of low income housing and even the special purpose credit programs pull back of that. But I think it would be hypocritical for me to say, well, this is just terrible news from the government. They should be doing more. They should be doing more. But if you really look at the results of the government intervention in these markets over the last 50 or 60 years, since the Fair Housing Act passed, maybe,
Yeah.
we've done almost nothing in way of balancing equity in homeownership rates, right? So clearly, the answer to these issues is housed in our industry, not in the federal government. And I think we see examples of that everywhere, right? I mean, we see companies, funding their own programs, portfolioing their own loans to make sure that they can have outreach to CRA communities, to low income communities, to minority communities. I know one big thing that we did here at Southern is I actually worked kind of alongside other CDFI organizations across the country to kind of build a collaborative, if you would,
Yes. Love
of
that.
CDFI companies so that we could offer competitive programs as a group that would give us the scale that we needed to be able to price them where they'd be competitive and really support the programs that our borrowers need. But as you know, smaller, I mean, we're a $3 billion CDFI, so we're definitely smaller when it comes to bank numbers. But all of these CDFIs combined coming together to pool resources and capital and come up with programs that we could use across all of our footprints really made a difference. And that's just one example of what our industry can really come together to do on our own and not really be quite as volatile as maybe shifting administrations in the federal government can be. But those, you know, it's impossible not to have the impact that the federal that each of the shifting administrations has on our industry. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So, as of early 2025, so earlier this year, prices are up 60% nationwide since 2019. So six, not quite, I mean, like 5 to 6 years, right? Um, and still rising at 3.9% year over year. That's like great for people that own a home and they're seeing those increases if they want to sell, right?
Oh, yeah.
4 of the regions in the United States, prices increased in all 4 regions and in 88 of the top 100 large metropolitan areas. Not an easy fix to fix some of those things, or it would have happened already. There are lots of components to doing that. Any ideas, like from you, or what needs to happen to make home ownership, I guess, more affordable for people outside of, like, we have DPAs and we have all of those other things going on now. Are there other things that that, like, you think that we could be doing to help promote that, I guess?
You know, Ms. Faith, I think I would say, and I think we need the kitchen sink approach on this issue too, right? It's going to take all of these things. You know,
Yeah.
we see all these stories about this rising across the country, but again, I'm going to go back to the both sidisms. I don't feel like we see much of that happening in these particular stories because all across the country, I'm seeing shifts in local municipalities that are changing zoning laws. They're changing required lot sizes. They're doing a lot to help start to remedy, for example, just one issue, the housing supply issue, right? You know, we know building new houses is costing more money. And it's just a fact of life that we have right now. But there are so many communities across the country that are figuring out ways to mediate those costs. You know, allowing tiny homes on and smaller lots, especially in urban.
ADUs.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. ADUs. You know, Freddie Mac just changed their rules earlier this week, I believe, on multi-units, so that families buying 2 to 4 unit properties as a primary residence, but also as a source of providing other housing and rental, can apply for Freddie using only 5% down. So that was a positive change that we're seeing out of the Fed. You know,
Yeah.
who knew? Who knew? Positive news, right? But also, manufactured housing is making a big shift right now and growing. More of our programs are allowing for, you know, better terms on manufactured housing. But I do think that there are so many challenges. The solutions are going to have to be just as complicated and numerous. But I do think it's about zoning laws. It's about letting more places get built in more compact ways, but also it's about letting material costs, using different materials. You know, I don't know if you've seen these stories about these houses that can be built with like printer.
Yeah, for sure.
They're like more energy efficient. They're stronger. They stand up to storms. They're fire retardant. I mean, it is so many amazing things happening across the country right now. And you know, part of our affordability crisis is the fact that that the changing environment is increasing natural disasters, and the expense of that is really, homeowners are taking it on the chin. I mean,
Yeah.
insurance rates have skyrocketed. So there are all of these things, but you do see these amazing and inspiring stories all across the country of how we really can combat some of these challenges. And I just have to say, I don't think that they're getting the same level of attention as the doom and gloom of just how
Yeah.
terrible everything is, right? I think there's just so much to be seen for the ingenuity that's happening in our industry and across the country. All of these local municipalities that are working to help their own communities. And if maybe we could get more of that
Yeah.
media hire, maybe we could hire a PR company just to talk about the good stuff. Because I think if more institutions and organizations heard more about the good stuff, it might spur some competition into those markets, some investment, more investment into those markets. But I think the truth is it's gonna be a long horizon to fix a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. Uh, But in the meantime, we just got to stay in the trenches and do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm so interested in, like, I'm one of those weirdo people that drives through neighborhoods with like an app on that shows me what's for sale, and then I'll stop and look because I've done that for years. It's such a weird thing, but I love to do that, and I love to do that when I go to different places when I'm visiting somewhere, same sort of thing, just to kind of get like a comparison of what is going on. So I do a lot of reading on like home building and how to build differently. And there is a company, I might have mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago. There's a company, it's called Reframed, I believe, that they're working to build like sustainable housing in they're in California right now, and then somewhere in New England, where they think they can come in and solve the neighborhood issue for all the houses that burn down.
Oh
Um,
yes,
but they plan out this house and they're beautiful. When you look at some of the examples of what they've done, you would never know. But the bulk of those houses are built more in a manufacturing environment.
yeah,
And so they're able to do it for way less than what they are if it's like stick built right on the property. And then they bring the house, I mean, they build it on the property, but the
right.
core of the home is like built in more of a manufacturing type environment. And I'm fascinated by people that can come up with those things to try to solve this issue.
Yeah, it is really fascinating. It's almost mind-boggling to think about the fact that materials used to build a structure can just be printed off of a 3D printer. And I watched some of those Sunday morning shows that you were talking about. Um, and I was blown away by how quickly they were able to build because they were talking about the homes that have been destroyed in natural disasters, and they can build back entire neighborhoods in a fraction of the time it takes to do the repair work with traditional materials and in traditional ways.
Yeah.
And then to hear that the houses are actually more sustainable, stronger, they hold up better to flooding and storming and fire. It's just an amazing shift for I think industry in
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think just that somebody had the thought process, okay, this is a challenge. We know that wildfires in California are not going to just disappear. They've had them for years. It's come into different places that it's never been before. But there's still another issue, even if it's not that direct community, there are other places in California that have had wildfires and in around the United States, not just California. But the fact that they have come up with this plan to build housing that will survive better in those environments and protect people more in those environments. And it's beautiful, just like it's not a lower grade housing.
right.
That's what I love. It's like it's not like coming in and building something that people wouldn't want to live in, or was different than dramatically different than what they had
Yeah,
been.
you make a good point there because I think when we first started seeing some of these new materials, they were very cookie cutter, square, rectangle structures only, right? But they've moved far beyond that already, and
Yeah.
I've found it fascinating that some of the curved walls and stuff that they can do with it now, like they really have a way to make it unique, and each homeowner can
They can
have
choose
something
just like they would. Yeah.
that suits their personalities and desires. I think it's amazing. It is a bright spot of hope, I think, in our construction.
I would agree. I would agree. So let's talk. Oh my gosh, we won't talk about that. We're at
Oh
the
my
end of a
God,
half an hour already.
how is that possible?
I think you and I could probably, we've done this before. We could probably talk forever, but great conversation with you. I always love getting your perspective on things. I cannot wait to see you in Boston in just a week. Can you believe it? We're going in on Friday, so we will be there a week from today. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing. You are a bright spot in the community that you serve, and just really appreciate the fact that you would have this conversation with me.
Thank you so much for asking me. I love it so much to talk to chat with you and to do this with the Merge Collaborative always. So thanks for asking and for giving me just a few minutes on my soapbox. You know how I enjoy it up here so much.
Well, you'll have to come back. You'll have to come back and do it again. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.